This is News 8 Now this morning.
New data from a confidential reporting tip line reveals why it matters to stay ahead of violence in schools.
We have trained analysts whose job it is to analyze the tips that they receive.
And higher heating costs are expected this winter. I'll tell you how you can prepare.
This 23% increase equates to about $200 more for those typical customers.
We as professional EMS providers or responders in hospitals, it's one thing, but what it really is important is that the person who witnesses a cardiac arrest at the scene of a cardiac arrest in our community.
It is one of those areas of discrimination that seems sadly all too common and acceptable relative to other forms of discrimination.
In an attempt to solidify elections and make them more secure, make them more trustworthy, one party has passed a series of laws to avoid voter fraud.
Wasn't the prettiest win the Packers ever got, but a win is a win, especially when it's on the road against Tom Brady.
Win is a win.
I guess. I mean, I'm a glass half empty kind of person.
Yeah.
I would say they've scored 3 points in the second half the last 2 games. So got to get it together offense. But hey, at least it's not Monday.
Exactly.
It is almost October. Hard to believe. We've got Oktoberfest this weekend.
Yeah.
Brisk air outside today. If you're in a few counties up north, want to bring the plants inside this morning.
Want to bring the plants inside, yeah, as you mentioned, because we're under some frost advisories in effect as well. So something to keep our eyes on. Let's go ahead and bring up that frost advisory while we're talking about it, and you can see exactly where we have those highlighted. It's mainly across our eastern zones this morning, eastern counties such as Monroe County, Jackson County as well, portions of Adams, Juneau County as too. Chippewa also under these frost advisories until 9 a.m. So we can expect temperatures into those low to mid 30s all morning long. And as a matter of fact, we are seeing that right now in Black River Falls at 31 degrees this morning. Sparta's at 30 degrees. But meanwhile, if you look further west, you can see temperature readings are mainly into those upper 30s, in fact, or towards those low 40s. City Cam 8 right now off to a quiet start. It's got a couple of scatter clouds moving in across the area. Some light showers were observed in Eau Claire and a couple of light spotty showers near the Rochester area. Still moving south away from La Crosse. Looking at mainly sunny skies here throughout the day today. Temperatures warming up into the 50s here by the afternoon hours. 56 degrees by 3 o'clock under mostly sunny skies. Your allergy report today is low for ragweed and weeds, but high for the mold. And tomorrow the same is in store here for ragweed, weeds, and mold. But coming up in just a bit, we'll talk about your schoolcast next in weather. Jordan?
All right, thanks a lot, Derek. I want to say good morning to those of you just joining us. Well, when it comes to school safety, noticing even the smallest things can make a big difference. Speak Up, Speak Out is a government program that takes confidential tips from anyone with concerns over school safety. News 8 Now's Emily Haugen took a look at the program's latest numbers.
The sooner, the better.
We encourage kids to report whenever they see a concern about their safety or the safety of others, and that can take a lot of different forms.
Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul says Speak Up, Speak Out has helped schools across the state do just that.
We have trained analysts whose job it is to analyze the tips that they receive and ensure that an appropriate response is deployed.
Those responses can range from alerting parents to involving law enforcement. The highest percent of reports are ones of bullying, with just over 26%. Threats of suicide are next. Though that may not be what you think of first when you hear school threat, Cole says those concerns often serve as warning signs.
Students who engage in school violence often go on a pathway to that violence, and the earlier in the process we can intervene, the less likely it is that an incident's going to happen.
Last school year, the report says SUSO took in just under 2,000 tips, 15% more than the year before. Call hopes that awareness grows, as he believes this system has made it easier for anyone who needs it to send a tip.
Students often will talk to each other about issues like this before they talk to an adult.
Connecting students to resources in a familiar way. In La Crosse, Emily Haugen, News 8 Now.
A reminder, anyone can submit a tip using the Speak Up, Speak Out website by phone or by using their app. We will post some resources for you at news8000.com. High schoolers around the region are preparing for the workforce. Over 1,700 juniors from 28 school districts attended Western Technical College's Career Expo at the La Crosse Center. Professionals in fields like engineering and law attended to connect with students, and representatives from higher education and the military sat at over 80 tables to make kids think about their future. Event organizers say it's the perfect stepping stone.
It's important to support the community, support the students, support the school districts. That's what we're all about. So to be able to provide these opportunities for them is something that we're really proud of and happy to continue to provide for them.
The expo has been running for over 15 years and is one of the largest expos in the area. Schools from La Crosse to Reedsburg were invited. UW La Crosse is getting a 5-year, $1.5 million grant towards the McNair Scholars Program. The scholarships go to students who are low-income, first-generation college students or members of a traditionally underrepresented groups. The grant will extend the McNair Scholars Program for up to 28 students every year through 2028. Following up on a story from this weekend, a few schools were closed on Monday in Richfield, Minnesota because of online threats. The district took that step after the shooting at a high school football game on Friday night. Richfield police announced Sunday they arrested a 15-year-old high school student for that shooting. As Caroline Cummings reports, both incidents left some parents uneasy, but they came together to do something good.
No students roamed the halls at Richfield High School Monday. Same with the middle school, after officials canceled class over concerns of online threats. It comes just days after shots were fired at the homecoming game, leaving a community on edge.
As a parent going through, what if it would have been when our kids were down on the field? Would they have ran towards us? Would they have ran? All of those thoughts, are we prepared for those conversations?
While the secondary schools were closed, the elementary schools were open, but the district gave parents the option to keep their kids home if they wanted to, and some parents did that for a little peace of mind.
And it was probably, like 7 o'clock before it was time to get ready. We just decided, I think we'd feel safer if we just kept our kids home and gave them a day to just not think about it.
But Chris Axelson didn't want the scare of threats or a shooting to steal his kids' joy. He wanted to turn something bad into something good, and he asked others to join in.
Let's just not think about it. Let's have pizza and talk about Richfield and get to know each other and different parents and kids and have a good time.
Axelson posted in a community Facebook group, "Come to Augsburg Park and let's make it extra fun for the kids." Bree Gehring and Stephanie Keene-Carlson answered the call.
And my second grader, like her fourth grader, was pretty nervous and got teary and said, "I don't really feel safe at school today." And so, coming here and being with friends felt like the right thing to do.
The right thing for them and a community trying to find comfort together.
This kind of feeling and community vibe is kind of reaffirming. I'd say that there's others who just want to turn this, help others and help support everybody the best way we can.
Richfield police described the threats as general in nature, and they are working with law enforcement to determine the source of the threats. Richfield Public Schools has not said when students will return to class. Well, you already pay taxes to keep schools open, teachers employed, and children learning, but after this fall, many Wisconsinites might be paying a lot more. The highest number of school districts in the past decade are seeking extra help through referendums on both the spring and November ballot. Some for basic budget needs. The Verona School District is one of 9 in Dane County seeking more funding.
In the last two-year budget cycle, we got $0 new per student. And that's the money most school districts use to budget for recurring expenses into the future.
Wheezy is talking about the budget passed by the state legislature, which cited millions in one-time federal COVID funds as the reason to not bump up school funding. State Superintendent Jill Underley called out the legislature on this issue last week in her State of Education speech.
If the legislature spent just 1/6 of the current taxpayer-funded budget surplus on schools, it could make such a difference.
For a breakdown of all Wisconsin districts going to referendum this November, we've got a link at news8000.com. La Crosse is the 3rd city in the U.S. to be designated a heart-safe community by the Citizen CPR Foundation. A heart-safe community designation is given to towns that meet 13 criteria. Some of those include building public awareness for heart failure and treatment, The executive director of Gunderson Tri-State Ambulance says having informed citizens can help save more lives.
We as professional EMS providers or responders in hospitals, it's one thing, but what it really is important is that the person who witnesses a cardiac arrest at the scene of a cardiac arrest in our community initiates 911, initiates CPR, and looks for an AED.
The La Crosse Fire Department led the movement to reach the criteria for the Heart Safe Community designation. Still to come on your Tuesday morning news, gas prices in Wisconsin have soared over the past week. We'll tell you how this could affect your trip to the pump. And switching to a cleaner engine, the technology allowing gas cars to transform into electric vehicles. That's all coming up after the break. For now, we are sending you to break with something to put the good in your Tuesday morning. A groundbreaking moment at the Packers Radio Network. For the first time ever, a woman is joining the on-air talent team. Shanna Quinn says the most touching moment was telling her mom and grandmom, both Green Bay Packers fans and season ticket holders, about her new role. As somebody who was raised on football, Quinn says this is a dream come true. She is excited to use her voice to get more women in sports and bring the passion of the game to Packers fans nationwide. So long overdue, and we're just proud of Shanna here on News 8 Now this morning. It is 10 after the hour. Your latest forecast is just ahead here on News 8 Now this morning.
City Cam 8 looking quiet for us this morning. A couple of clouds out there. Temperatures well into the low 30s across portions of our eastern zone. Sparta and Black River Falls, the cold spots at 30 to 31 degrees. Looking at frost advisories in effect for these areas as well until 9 a.m. Try to bring inside your plants or at least cover them up if you can't. And temperatures in these spots low to mid 30s likely through at least 9 o'clock this morning. Zone forecast today going to be cool here once again with highs into the low 60s, except areas like Bangor could be around 57. Same in West Salem here this afternoon. Highs reaching 57 today in Soldiers Grove and 58 towards the west in Lansing. As we head north, 57 today in Winona and 54 in Warren today. Looking at highs around 57 in Melrose and 55 today if you're in Blair. Same in Osseo at 55 as well. Eau Claire will be at 54 and Thorpe at 51. 52 today in Stanley. Your schoolcast this morning at the bus stop looking cool at 40 degrees, 52 by the lunch hour with sunny skies, and then mostly sunny skies for the afternoon. Temperatures at around 56. I'll be back with a check on your full weather forecast next in weather.
After gas prices fell for an unprecedented 14 weeks straight nationally, the average U.S. gallon rose 1.4 cents in just the past week. But here in Wisconsin, prices have seen a bigger rise. In Madison, prices were up 7 cents in just one day. According to AAA, Wisconsin is seeing the second highest week-long increase in the entire country. AAA expects oil supply to increase by early next week, if not sooner. Automakers are ramping up production of new electric cars, but now some classic gas guzzlers may get a modern-day makeover. Ford's conversion kit, called the Illuminator, is allowing for some gas-powered cars to turn into electric ones. Although the transition to the Illuminator calls for an experienced mechanic, it can help classic cars return to the streets. The market for electric transformations are expected to surge in the next decade. Xcel Energy says your energy bills are expected to surge 23% this winter. The company says it's not a price gouging tactic. It's because the cost of natural gas is at a 15-year high. News 8 Now's Rob Romano details how you can prepare for that added cost.
In the state of Wisconsin, Xcel Energy has about 225,000 customers. The company projects that from November to March, the energy bill of its average customer will rise more than 20%.
This 23% increase equates to about $200 more for those typical customers.
Spokesperson Chris Willett says the latest surge is on top of the price increase that customers experienced last winter.
It is on top of the double-digit increase that we had the year prior, where natural gas prices were escalating back in 2021.
Willett also says that Xcel Energy is not profiting from the increase in prices. She says the added costs are due to the higher price of natural gas nationwide.
Less than 1% of that increase is due to costs from Xcel Energy. So I think it's important for customers to know that we do not profit from the increase in natural gas. We do not mark that up.
Willette says there are ways to prepare for the higher heating costs that are expected this winter. She recommends getting furnaces inspected and getting furnace filters cleaned out before winter. She also says customers should contact Xcel Energy and ask about payment plans or energy assistance programs if they expect to have issues paying their bills. Vincent Grant moved into a new apartment 2 weeks ago after being homeless for about a year. He's concerned about paying higher heating costs after recently getting off the street.
It's ridiculous. It's too high. How we supposed to live? It's going to be real terrible because you're raising everything up and then you try to get a one-bedroom apartment. That's like, what, $700-some.
In La Crosse, Rob Romano, News 8 Now.
Everything's more expensive, and according to the Consumer Price Index, energy prices nationwide have risen nearly 24% since August of 2021.
Well, as far as a quiet start from City Cam 8, we can kind of see some of those clouds as the sun begins to rise here. 44 degrees with a light north wind at 3 miles an hour. Our river stage is at 5.03 feet. And it's dropping. We do have frost advisories in effect for our eastern zones until 9 a.m. this morning, so try to cover up those plants or bring them inside if you can as well. Colder temperatures are also expected here tonight into early Wednesday morning, so it would not surprise me at all if we see some more of those frost advisories go into effect. But for now, temperatures are into the 30s. Where we have those frost advisories, temperature readings are currently in the low 30s. Sparta's at 30, Black River Falls at 31. We're at 41 though in Eau Claire and 41 degrees currently in Winona, and 37 degrees in Red Wing. You can see some of those scatter clouds moving in across the Coulee region. A couple of light showers near the Rochester area. As far as your daycast today, looking at cool and sunny conditions at noon today, 51 degrees, and then 55, mostly sunny at 5 p.m. And by 9, you can expect a clear evening, 48 degrees being the temperature there. Followed by high temperatures today, reaching those mid to upper 50s to low 60s all across the Coulee region this afternoon. So the clouds that we're seeing now in some parts of the area will kind of move away later this morning, but then another round of clouds could develop and spread across the area by around 4 to 5 o'clock or so before diminishing as we head into tonight. Now, as we head into tomorrow, high pressure is going to build in across the area. That is going to give us sunny and dry conditions to work with, and also the start of a trend of some warmer temperatures, especially as we head into Thursday, because as that high moves away, we'll be on the west side of that system, so we'll get more of a south wind component, and that should help warm up our temperatures closer towards the end of the work week and as well as into the weekend. In fact, you can see our highs will reach the low 70s by Friday and this weekend, and also into early next week, our highs will be into the low 70s under mostly sunny skies, although there's a slight chance of a shower possible early next week on Tuesday. So something to watch, but right now not really overly concerned about that. Low temperatures mainly into the 40s to low 50s, especially towards the end of the work week and into early next week when it starts warming up some. So overall temperatures stay cool through Thursday. Days of plentiful sunshine and warming up here, like I mentioned, by the end of the week. But stay with us. Much more news and weather still to come right here on News 8 Now this morning. But for now, we're taking a quick break. Here's a look at what happened on this day in history. We'll be right back. We are looking at some frost advisories in effect for much of our eastern zones, I should say. Up until around 9 a.m., those advisories should expire, and you can see that here highlighted in blue, mainly for areas like Black River Falls and Sparta, just north of Eau Claire is kind of what we're dealing with here. Temperatures in those spots are into the low 30s. It's 30 degrees in Sparta and 31 in Black River Falls, as a matter of fact, but warmer just to the west. Your dog walk forecast this morning looking cool and sunny. Afternoon also looking sunny. Mostly sunny skies for the evening. So all around some good walks there. Mowing forecast for today, 40 degrees at 7, 50 by 11, and 56 and mostly sunny at 3. Stay tuned. I'll have a check on your commute forecast plus your boating forecast next in weather.
Welcome to the Blitz. Well, it wasn't the prettiest win the Packers ever got, but a win is a win, especially when it's on the road against Tom Brady. And after a rough Week 1 performance, the Green and Gold have now won 2 straight. It was a great start for Green Bay on Sunday. The Packers making it look easy early on. 2 long touchdown drives had Green Bay up 11 with just under 9 minutes to go in the half, but that was it for points. all the onus being put on the Packers defense to keep this one in reach. That's exactly what they did. 14-12 the final from Tampa as the Packers improved to 2-1 on the year, and a familiar face was back for the Pack on Sunday. David Bakhtiari hadn't played since week 18 of last season, but the 10-year pro finally back on the field for Green Bay. He split series with Yosh Nijman on Sunday, so Bakhtiari playing 34 of the 61 snaps for the Packers. After the game, Bakhtiari said the adrenaline makes it hard to gauge where he's at physically, but he says it felt great to be back with his teammates and get an important win on the road.
I think for our season and this team, and then particularly for the guys that were here in 2020, and then, I mean, even for me, I got knocked out of this game. That's why I broke my rib. So to come back out here and finish the game, beat them, there's a lot of positive takeaways. I'm just fortunate, blessed, happy.
Big win for the Vikings as well. Minnesota back at home Sunday after a tough loss last Monday night. For most of this one, it looked like the Lions were going to get the upset, but the Vikings waking up late, 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter, capped off by this KJ Osborne touchdown in the final minute, and Minnesota escapes with a 28-24 win.
Simply with the group of guys that we have, we're never out of it. With the coach that we have leading the way, we're never out of it. So just lean on one another as you see out there, and it all came together at the end of the day.
Vikings head overseas next weekend to take on the Saints. That'll do it for the Blitz. We'll see you tonight.
Breaking overnight, Italy's political party Brothers of Italy leader Giorgia Meloni has claimed victory in the general election that seems set to place her as Italy's first female prime minister, leading the most far-right government since the era of Benito Mussolini. Meloni says she will aim to unite her country if she is tasked with forming the next cabinet. Members of the public gathered in Tokyo today to pay their final respects to former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe ahead of his state funeral. Mourners lined up outside to lay flowers at two memorial sites set up by the government. Japan has strengthened its police presence ahead of the state funeral as representatives from the U.S. and other countries were in attendance at the funeral. White House Press Secretary Karen Jean-Pierre spoke with the White House press on Monday. During the briefing, Jean-Pierre said that the U.S. has not changed its nuclear defense stance despite threats from Russian President Vladimir Putin last week to use nuclear weapons. Jean-Pierre went on to say that while the U.S. has not seen any changes, the government takes those threats very seriously. Workplace age discrimination is growing. Recent AARP research shows 62% of workers over the age of 50 report seeing or experiencing discrimination when at work. Experts say the issue is becoming more frequent since the COVID-19 pandemic, despite a clear lack of awareness.
It is one of those areas of discrimination that seems sadly all too common and acceptable relative to other forms of discrimination out there. And it is just as wrong and just as important for us to be vigilant about it.
AARP says older workers should know their rights. We have more information at news8000.com. SSM's Ripon Community Hospital will now have a new space to help treat patients who have low-risk mental health or substance use concerns. The new unit is for those who don't meet criteria for inpatient care but still need some help. 8 patients at a time, 7 days a week, can take part in the voluntary program for up to 23 hours. While there, they complete an assessment, brief therapy, and connect with case management staff.
In many cases, though they can't be admitted to a hospital, they face great uncertainties returning home without guidance and important resources set in place for them.
On Monday, Governor Tony Evers toured the new unit, getting a look at the state's $158,000 investment to help launch the program. Maternal care is becoming a crisis. Supporters say the need has only grown since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. According to the March of Dimes, around 7 million women in the U.S. live in maternity care deserts where no hospital or provider offers childbirth services or maternity care is limited. Women across the nation are doing what they can to improve the issue.
We've had women die trying to get to a hospital because hospitals are not in the zip codes where they live. We've had women to have babies in their cars. women have babies at home because they could not get to a hospital.
Massachusetts Representative and Democrat Catherine Clark introduced legislation called the Babies Act, which will expand access to birth centers and midwives for Medicaid receivers and Medicaid services, found that birth centers had better birth outcomes and cost savings. A conservative Wisconsin news outlet is suing the Wisconsin Parole Commission. Wisconsin Right Now says the commission is refusing to comply with open records requests. The outlet has multiple articles about violent offenders who received parole under Democratic Governor Tony Evers' administration. A reporter for Wisconsin Right Now requested names of all offenders released since Evers appointed the commissioner's chairman in 2019. That lawsuit says the commission provided information through 2021 and promised to send more records, but they stopped communicating with the news outlet. Wisconsin's Republican Assembly Leader Robin Vos is suing to block a subpoena ordering him to testify before the House Committee. The House Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol plans to ask Vos about a conversation he had with former President Donald Trump in July about the steps he was taking to overturn the 2020 election results. Vos says the subpoena falls outside the scope of the committee's investigation and that he has no information on the January 6th attacks. On Tuesday, Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District, Brad Pfaff, held a roundtable with military veterans. Pfaff met with several veterans at the VFW Legion in Bangor. The current state senator says it's important to hear what kind of issues are important to those who have served our country. One Desert Storm veteran who attended the roundtable says not all veterans support the direction Pfaff's opponent Derek Van Orden has taken leading up to this election. The veteran says he's embarrassed and discouraged by Van Orden's presence at the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
I think it speaks to the judgment and, again, the hypocrisy. You can't be a patriot on Monday and an insurrectionist on the next day and come back here and wrap yourself in the flag.
Van Orden did respond with a statement saying his military experience allows him to understand the issues facing the veteran community. As for the January 6th events, Van Orden released an article to the La Crosse Tribune a week after January 6th where he watched, saying, quote, "What should have been an expression of free speech devolved into one of the most tragic incidents in the history of our nation," stating that he left the area when it became clear that the protest became a mob. The midterm election is just weeks away, and according to a new study, Wisconsin is one of the hardest states to cast a vote in. News 8 Now's Dua Israr spoke to political experts who explain why Wisconsin has seen an increase in voting regulations.
When it comes time to vote in November,
how inconvenient it is to register and to vote.
Some Wisconsinites may find it hard to cast their ballot.
I think for students who I'm encouraging to vote, they encounter some challenges.
Political expert Joe Heim says statewide there have been regulations and restrictions on registration, voter IDs, absentee ballots, and drop boxes.
So Wisconsin has had its share of restrictions.
For voter Carla Zell, changes to the state voting laws hasn't impacted her.
To me, it's about the same. I typically vote in person. I go to the poll.
But voter Keith Knudsen says not everyone can say the same.
What about our homeless population? They don't have an address. Are they going to be able to vote? And do we think they should not be able to vote simply because they're homeless? So I think we've got a lot of issues here in the United States.
Although claims of widespread voter fraud were disproven, political analyst Joe Heim says the rise of frequent voting laws is a result of the 2020 election.
In an attempt to solidify elections and make them more secure, make them more trustworthy, one party has passed a series of laws to avoid voter fraud.
Heim says while voting laws may continue to be passed, a majority of Wisconsinites aren't being affected.
Well, Wisconsin was in the top 5 in terms of national voting in the 50 states, and we are still in the top 5.
Instead, voters are continuing to cast their ballots in record-breaking numbers. Reporting in La Crosse, Dua Israr, News 8 Now.
A reminder, the midterm election is set for November 8th. The West Nile virus is spreading in Wisconsin. Sheboygan County confirmed the first human case in the state on Monday. A horse tested positive for West Nile virus in Trumpeldor County earlier this month. Health officials say the public is at greater risk of contracting the virus. West Nile spreads through mosquito bites. Experts say 80% of infected people do not develop symptoms.
Most people are asymptomatic. What we do see is people who are over the age of 60, if they are, one of the unfortunately lucky ones that do get infected, they could go on to develop severe illness.
Those who do become ill usually experience mild symptoms such as fever, headache, muscle ache, rash, and fatigue. To avoid the West Nile virus, wear long-sleeve clothing, and if you own a horse, vaccinate your animal, remove standing water, and only keep your horse outside at night. If you have any plans on hosting that perfect fall wedding or photo shoot soon, you may be in luck. Fall colors, you see them there, are beginning to come back to the Coulee region with cool, crisp evenings in store. This year's fall leaves are expected to be normal. According to UW La Crosse scientists, the region will be in for good fall leafage.
I think this year we'll have probably a really good showing. Like I said, lots of reds and oranges, and the maples, oaks, and then also other sumacs already, I think, I've been seeing a lot of those on my bike ride to work.
Leaves are predicted to peak the second week in October.
Seeing some scattered clouds now across the area move in, some light showers, especially towards the west around the Rochester area. Current temperatures are mainly into the 30s. Very cold in Black River Falls and Sparta this morning at 30 degrees. 41 currently in Eau Claire and 44 in La Crosse, 41 degrees now in Winona. A check now on your overall forecast today. Mostly sunny and cool. Temperatures at 60. North-northwest winds at 10 to 15. For tonight, 37 degrees and mostly clear. North-northeast winds at 5 to 10. Boating forecast looks a bit chilly out there today. Not going to lie, 56 at 3 o'clock, mostly sunny, and 54 degrees by 6. Now, as far as your drivecast is concerned today, looking at some sunny conditions for the morning and also into your lunch hour, followed by mostly sunny skies for your evening commute. I'll be back with a final check on your full weather forecast coming up next in weather. Jordan?
Thanks a lot, Derek. Well, coming up in the Buzz Report this morning, the voice behind the mask, how Darth Vader will finally be hanging up the lightsaber. Your Buzz Report is just ahead. It is 20 to the top of the hour here on News 8 Now this morning.
Looking at some quiet conditions now from City Cam 8. Got a couple of clouds there in the sky with temperatures at around 44 degrees. A light north wind at 3 miles an hour. River stage is at 5.03 feet. But more importantly, we do have these frost advisories in effect mainly for our eastern counties until 9 a.m. this morning. That's because temperatures in these spots are expected to be into the low 30s. In fact, they kind of are right now, which we'll get to in a second. But cover up those plants, bring them inside if you can. Even colder conditions expected as we head into tonight, even too early on Wednesday morning. So no surprise that we could be looking at some more frost advisories on the way. Black River Falls and Sparta, where we do have those advisories in effect, temperatures there in the low 30s, 30 degrees to be exact. 41 now in Eau Claire and 41 degrees currently in Winona. Got some scattered clouds moving south across the Coulee region from the north. A couple of light showers underneath some of those thicker clouds, especially back towards the west. Your daycast today, 51 by noon today, 55 and mostly sunny by 5. And then we got clear skies in the forecast by 9 o'clock tonight with temperatures around 48. Highs today will range into those mid to upper 50s, although some of us closer towards La Crosse and Winona into the upper 50s to low 60s come this afternoon. We're looking at those clouds moving out as we head into the late morning to early afternoon, followed by some more cloud cover that could develop and spread across portions of the central and eastern zones by the afternoon before clearing out as we head into tonight. Now, as we head into tomorrow, we're looking at a pretty strong high-pressure system building at the surface and building in across the upper Midwest, as a matter of fact, directly on top of the Coulee region, really, as we head into tomorrow afternoon. That's going to provide sunshine, dry conditions, and overall a trend here in our temperatures moving up, especially as we head into Thursday, because we'll be on the west side of that high by Thursday, and that's going to drive a southerly wind component across the area near the end of the work week to help warm up the temperatures quite a bit. In fact, you'll notice that we go from the 60s to the 70s by the end of the work week and also into the weekend thanks to that south wind. And those 70-degree readings could even last into early next week as well. There is a slight chance of a shower, though, possible in the forecast on Tuesday. Nothing really to be overly concerned about, though, if you have outdoor plans. Low temperatures mainly into the 40s.
In our Buzz Report this morning, legendary voice actor James Earl Jones bids Darth Vader goodbye. The actor will no longer provide the Star Wars villain's iconic voice for future projects. Vanity Fair reports that Jones has now allowed his menacing vocals to live on artificially by being recreated through an AI program.
You saw who's out there. Just gonna keep coming. If there's trouble.
Oh, we wanted to bring you more sound there, but J-Lo becomes an action hero. This is the first look at Jennifer Lopez as a killer operative in her latest film, The Mother. The thriller allows an assassin as she comes out of hiding to protect her estranged daughter and hits Netflix in 2023. With that in mind, we have got a few birthdays to celebrate this morning.
That's right, Jordan. We want to wish a happy 8 months to Bentley. He loves to play with his toys, going to the park, and learning how to stand up.
Happy birthday, Bentley. A happy birthday to Carson. Carson is also turning 8 months this morning. He loves to giggle, eat, and shake his head. No, I concur. I also like to shake my
Yeah, it's so easy. Like, no, I'm not doing that. A happy birthday to Buzz, who turns 80. He loves to spend time with his family, friends, and his pets.
A happy birthday to Bee this morning. She is turning 88. She loves to spend time with her family and her caretaker. She is also a member of the Norskadalen Trio.
Well, if you know a special someone that is turning 8 months, 8 years, 80 years old, or 88 years old soon, we'd love to feature them.
Just upload their photo to our website. You're going to go to news8000.com. It's easy. Look for the Submit Pictures button right under the Home tab on our website. Well, we hope you can stay with us. Your latest forecast and everything you need to know this morning in 5 minutes or less is just ahead.
Ahead on CBS Mornings, Hurricane Ian continues to gain strength and could bring historic damage to parts of Florida. We're in Clearwater, where residents are under mandatory evacuation orders. And director, that's Gina Prince Bythewood, takes Anthony Mason behind the scenes of her epic new movie, The Woman King. Hear why she trained with the actors for those massive fight scenes. Go, Gina. And we've got a very candid conversation with daytime host, that's Kelly Ripa, on marriage, motherhood, and setting the record straight about her relationship with the late Regis Philbin. See you 7 o'clock on the dot.
Your morning news now on this Tuesday. You already pay taxes to keep schools open, teachers employed, and children learning, but after this fall, many Wisconsinites might be paying a lot more. The highest number of school districts in the past decade are seeking extra help through referendums on both the spring and November ballot, some for basic budget needs. The Verona School District is one of 9 in Dane County seeking more funding.
The last two-year budget cycle, we got $0 new per student. And that's the money most school districts use to budget for recurring expenses into the future.
Wheezy, who you heard from there, is talking about the budget passed by the state legislature, which cited millions in one-time federal COVID funds as a reason not to bump up school funding. State Superintendent Jill Underly called out the legislature on this issue last week in her State of Education speech.
If the legislature spent just 1/6 of the current taxpayer-funded budget surplus on schools, it could make such a difference.
For a breakdown of all Wisconsin districts going to referendum this November, we have a link for you at news8000.com. When it comes to school safety, noticing the smallest things can make a big difference. Speak Up, Speak Out is a government program that takes confidential tips from anyone with concerns over school safety. On Monday, the program released information showing there is a 15% increase in tip submissions from last year. Anyone who has a school violence-related tip can submit it on the program's website, app, or tip line. Wisconsin's Attorney General Josh Kaul believes the responses have led to successful intervention in moments of crisis.
Students who engage in school violence often go on a pathway to that violence, and the earlier in the process we can intervene, the less likely it is that an incident's going to happen.
The report reveals that the highest percent of reports are ones of bullying at just over 26%. Threats of suicide are next, followed by reports of drugs, guns, and weapons.
As we take you into the morning, looking at temperatures mainly into the 40s. Highs warm up into those mid to upper 50s here today under mostly sunny but yet cool conditions.
High schoolers around the region are preparing for the workforce. Over 1,700 juniors from 28 school districts attended Western Technical College's Career Expo at the La Crosse Center. Professionals in fields like engineering and law attended to connect with students, and representatives from higher education and the military sat at over 80 tables to help kids think about their futures. UW-La Crosse is getting a 5-year, $1.5 million grant toward the McNair Scholars Program. The scholarships go to students who are low-income first-generation college students or members of traditionally underrepresented groups. Funds are coming from the U.S. Department of Education. The grant will extend the McNair Scholars Program for up to 28 students every year through 2028. The program is named after black scientist Ronald McNair, who died in the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion in 1986. The city of La Crosse is the third city in the U.S. to be designated a heart-safe community by the Citizen CPR Foundation. A heart-safe community designation is given to towns that meet 13 criteria. Some of those include building public awareness for heart failure and treatment. The executive director for Gunderson Tri-State Ambulance says having informed citizens can help save more lives.
And as you head out the door today, temperatures well into the 40s. Some frost advisories in effect to the east. 51 degrees at noon. Sunny skies, mostly sunny by 5, 55 degrees, and a northwesterly breeze as well.
Well, don't forget to keep up with the news of the day at news8000.com. We're going to have the latest coming up this afternoon on News 8 now at noon. Can't believe we're almost to October, Derek.
I know, it's coming fast, and temperatures are feeling that way, too.
Fall is in the air. Thank you so much for joining us. CBS Mornings follows us here. We hope you have a great day.